Hey everyone, welcome back to the Radical Care for Christian Counselors podcast. My name is Bethany, and if you're joining us, welcome. This podcast is really for counselors, mental health professionals, pastoral care leaders, really anyone who is caring well for other people. And my dream is to have this be a place where you can come and kick your shoes off and feel comfortable just being here. I also facilitate groups. And so if you'd love to have more information about that, you can go over to BethanyBoring.com and you can see what we have coming up. So I want to do something different this summer. And since this is the first episode that I'm kicking off, I often get asked questions, especially, when I'm speaking and especially talking about my book that just came out, The Joy Catcher. I get asked, Bethany, what is charge syndrome? And what are the physical challenges that you have? And what is it that makes your life different than, say, somebody that doesn't have these physical challenges? And it's been interesting because sometimes I'm hesitant to talk about it because I know my journey is so different than many others. And really, anybody that has a physical challenge, you can have the same physical challenge in two different people, and yet they both experience lives two different ways. So that's why it's always interesting to me to hear other people's stories. So when I start sharing these over the next couple weeks, I don't want you to run out and go, okay, so this is going to explain everybody that has charge syndrome, because that's not true. Charge syndrome is such a wide spectrum. And so you can Google it and you can see that each letter stands for a different thing. And I'm not going to go over all of that on here. But one thing I will say about charge syndrome is that it is so incredibly neat going to the Charge Syndrome Conference, which I'll be going to here in a couple of short weeks as per this recording. And hopefully I'll be doing some podcasts there, we're going to see. But just to see the kids, the babies, the teenagers, the adults, there's so many people with so many different challenges. And to see the nature of overcoming is just amazing. And to also have a place where there's some things that so many other people can relate to that only chargers get because it's such a wide variety of different physical challenges. And so, for instance, part of it is coloboma, which is the vision loss, and hearing loss. And so it's really interesting to have that combination. Many people don't. And so for chargers to have that combination, we've had moments where, our hearing aids don't work and we can't see or hear, understand directions where somebody could be yelling at us in the parking lot. And it's not that we don't hear it, we just can't tell which direction it's coming from. So that's something that all the chargers there at the conference were just like, oh my goodness, like people get me, people understand me. I have a place where people actually get and they have stories, and I'm not the weird one being just singled out. The reason I bring this up is because one thing that charge syndrome has taught me is that I remember ever since I was little just wondering if I had other people on the face of the earth that had all the challenges I did, because I didn't know anybody. In fact, it wasn't until I was a teenager, I went on a mission trip and I met a little boy who was on an Indian reservation who had a short left arm and hand. And I remember we actually met and we connected and we were kind of just talking about, our hands. And he was telling me a little bit about his story. And that was the first time I really felt like somebody else got it. And there was such an age difference. I was a teenager and he was like 8. It's like 8 or 9. But I'll never forget that feeling of going, wow, there's somebody else that actually gets it. There's somebody else that understands what this is like. So then there's also a part of me that's like, when am I going to find that person again? And there's probably just nobody else that really understands. At that time in my life, I wasn't aware of charge syndrome. I wasn't aware of all the physical challenges that I had, honestly, especially the severity of them. I was just pressing through to get through the next day. So imagine my surprise just a couple years ago, finding out that the Charge Syndrome Foundation Conference was actually going to be here in Orlando. I was excited but scared, and that's right around the time I was finding out about the vision and hearing loss that I had. And there was a spark of hope that maybe other chargers understood what that was like. And so I registered for the conference, I made the motel arrangements, and I decided to go. What I didn't know and what to expect at the time is that a week or two leading up to the conference, they actually asked me to speak. I was like, oh man, what have I gotten myself into? This is the first time I'd ever be meeting people that I felt like could relate to me. At the same time, I didn't know what I was going to share. I didn't know how much to share. I didn't know what to expect. I remember walking down the entryway and having this little boy just literally roll on the floor past me. And it reminds me that there's so many times growing up where I would feel so much more comfortable on the floor than I would be like jumping in the air. I enjoy jumping and stuff, but as far as safety and feeling comfortable and grounded, it was like to get as close to the ground as you could. And I was able to relate to several different people that was just normal. Like, oh yeah, that's because that's something that many chargers deal with. And I'm going, back when I was that age, it wasn't normal. Just it wasn't identified. And to see these kids just rolling around and having a fun time, I just remember taking a deep breath, go, okay, this is going to be a lot for me to soak in and be okay with. As I continued down later on that night, I got to meet the smaller, I would say, adult portion, but they just called 30 plus. And that kind of got me. That they had the teenager group, and then they just had 30 plus. And I can't even tell you how many of us that there were. But it was hopeful because they had all of these different age groups spread out throughout the room. They had the babies, they had the, little toddlers, they had, different age groups. But for us, it was just the 30 and up. There wasn't a whole lot of us there. There was a good amount, but it wasn't huge. And for the first time, we got to connect. And if you can imagine, different adults, different challenges. Some could talk, some were nonverbal, some had assistance with them, some didn't. Some had canes, some had wheelchairs, some had trachs, some had just different devices. There were white canes everywhere, which was awesome. But it was so much. I remember just feeling, for the first time in my life, feeling so seen, but yet at the same time, almost feeling so afraid. I wasn't sure how to even move forward because I'd never been in this situation before. I was always the weird one out, but now we were all weird together. Over the next couple of days, we traded so many amazing stories. And I felt so seen. And yet at the same time, I felt so different because I was one of the few 30-plusers that had kids, that had my own business, that was living in my own home. And it made me realize how fortunate I was. And many people that don't have charge or even physical challenges look at me and go, oh my goodness, if Bethany can do it, I know I can, kind of thing. And yet, it's different when you're actually in it like this and you go to a conference like that and you see so many people with so many different challenges. So I want you to know that if you're watching this podcast and you're not sure about, oh my goodness, what stories am I going to get into the next couple weeks? I don't even know, because I'm just sitting here now and I'm getting a chance to bulk do a couple of these episodes before I travel a lot of different places here on summer break. But I wanted to do this because I felt God was calling me to record these episodes. But I want you to know, my experience isn't my neighbor's. It's not even a same person that may be my same age, that may have kids, that may have their own business, they may have a short right arm and vision and hearing challenges and a pacemaker. I challenge you to get curious. I challenge you to get to know people's stories and don't feel awkward asking. There's so many people that don't know what to do sometimes with me and my abilities or lack thereof, and they're not comfortable. I guess my biggest plea that this could go out as it goes out to many people to know that, at least from my perspective, I would love for somebody to join me here on the couch and go, Bethany, how are these experiences for you? What is that like for you? But then also let me ask the same questions of them and to stay curious. It's definitely a major, amazing quality for a coach, but it's also a huge relationship quality that we all need to have. So, walking away from this conversation, I hope you hear this. Stay curious. Don't compare your story to anybody else's. But ask God, okay, God, what do you have in me to sit with in this story? What questions do I have? What thoughts do I have? And where are you leading me? I hope some of this has been helpful. I hope to see you back here next week as we talk about each different challenge. We're taking one physical challenge a week at this point, and we're going to see where it goes. And so if you're watching this, you go, Bethany, I would love to ask you a question about that. Please do. If I get it as we're going throughout the summer, I might include it in this series. And you can always email me at bethany@stepoutandthrive.com. And I love to travel and speak about this as well, because you are beautiful. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Not because somebody else said that, because God of the universe gave you that. And because he gave you that and we get to receive continually from him every single day, we don't have to earn that acceptance to other people, because God has already given that. We get to lead other people into that. Don't forget the power of that amazing moment. Dare to do more than just survive. Step out and thrive. Go chase beauty. I'll see you back here next week. Bye.